Yo, what's good with y'all? It's your boy Nick, and today we are reacting to he's the number one NBA prospect, but he rarely plays. Let's get straight into it.
Is Darryn Peterson, a guaranteed one-and-done freshman guard at Kansas who is an incredible scorer and looks very much like the number one overall pick in a loaded 2026 NBA draft when he actually plays. Arguably the biggest story in college basketball right now is the fact that Peterson has missed a bunch of games this season either due to injury or just not playing, and seems to be leaving some of these games early for a variety of reasons, which at best means that he has a bunch of injury issues, and at worst means that he either doesn't really like basketball that much or is quitting on his teammates, or there's some other plot here to try and protect his draft.
Hey, I rock with Darryn Peterson. Like y'all saw from the last video, I was asking Adam Silver to give my Atlanta Hawks the first round pick so we could draft him. I feel like he's an amazing player. He flows just like who they compare him to, which is Anthony Edwards. He's able to flow. He's able to get to his spots. The problem is he cramps a lot. He be axing out games like we saw in that game where he tapped the coach to get out the game. But he, outside of that, he's an amazing player. He's for sure the number one pick. But people just got, it's tough.
Draft positioning at all costs. I mean, just look at this clip from their game against Oklahoma State. It looks like Darryn Peterson takes a shot, looks at his head coach, Bill Self, asked to come out of the game, and then Self immediately calls a timeout. And then Peterson doesn't play the last 17 and a half minutes of this game, a game that Kansas ends up winning, by the way, but still. And this has been a thing the entire season. He had some lower leg injury issues that caused him to just miss a bunch of games outright, and then a cramping problem that has been the reason, at least publicly stated reason, that he hasn't been playing in the second half of a bunch of these games. But lately, things have escalated. His head coach, Bill Self, who previously had defended Peterson publicly, is now coming out and saying he thought the cramping issue was solved, and he's disappointed that Peterson hasn't been able to play in the second half of these games. So clearly something else is happening here. Why is he leaving these games early if it's not because of a cramping issue? Why is he seemingly not playing at times against some of the best competition on Kansas's schedule? Is this an injury thing that we're just not aware of? Is this an agent thing? What exactly is happening here? All of these are questions that need to be answered for a guy that still very clearly could be the number one overall pick in the draft. So first, let's talk about the injury stuff. In the beginning of the year, there was a quad injury issue that wasn't ever really fully specified, but it caused him to miss time in non-conference play. Then there was a hamstring strain, which seemed very legitimate. It sidelined him from multiple early season games, including high-profile matchups against, at the time, number 5 Duke in November and number 5 UConn in December. And the hamstring strain.
And then also, this dude got the nickname DMP because of the fact that he's been axing out games and stuff, which that is crazy. Some people saying he ducking because he's not playing against top-ranked teams, but he just proved that playing against Houston. You know what I mean? They beat Houston. He's just dealing with injuries and stuff. Like, the medical staff going to get that situated and stuff. He's going to be rolling for March Madness for sure.
Seems to be legitimate, which still speaks to possible injury concerns as a draft prospect, but he missed like 7 games in a row, so clearly something was actually wrong there. Another legitimate injury seemed to be when he sprained an ankle in January, causing him to miss some time. And then the number one injury prevailing over all of this has been this mysterious cramping problem that seems to be the reason, or at least the publicly stated reason, that he's leaving games early and not finishing the second half. His coach Bill Self has noted that it wasn't something that Peterson dealt with in high school, but was something that the team was taking seriously, and they felt like as the season progressed, they were better equipped to manage it now than they were earlier in the year. But he's also said, once again, publicly, that this has happened often enough that the team is now just getting used to playing without him. Now, in addition to the cramping and kind of at times in conjunction with the cramping, there also was an illness issue, flu-like symptoms that also caused him to miss some time. But really the core of all of this is the cramping, the illness, whatever the case may be, whatever is causing him to leave these games early. In a January game against BYU, he was amazing in the first half against pretty much the only other competition he has at this point in my mind for the number one overall pick in the draft, AJ Devanza, and he was...
Those are the only two, like what he just said, those are the only two that's going head for head in racing for the number one overall pick, him and AJ. Boozer's been playing good, but I feel like the team that's going to get the number one pick they're going to need a player like AJ and Peterson, because they need someone that could score. Like, they're saying Sacramento going to get the number 1 overall pick. They need a point guard. They need someone that could score. Atlanta, they get the number 1 pick. I would hope that they select Peterson, but also the Hawks GM likes long wings, so it's a chance that he will select AJ. But the team that gets the number 1 overall pick, I doubt they would select Cameron Boozer. I doubt it.
Amazing in the first half and then left early in the second half due to cramp. And even though Kansas ends up still winning that game, an impressive win for them, he still ended up missing almost the last 17 minutes of that game. Things continued to escalate in February, a game again.
And the thing is, he's been showing that he can play good against competition with that AJ game. So I feel like he just gotta improve. The medical staff need to keep on working on him with that injury, with the cramping, and he could go crazy in March Madness. They're going to go crazy for sure. They just beat Houston, so he's been doing good against competition and all that. I got no doubt in that for sure.
To cramp. And even though Kansas ends up still winning that game, an impressive win for them, he still ended up missing almost the last 17 minutes of that game. Things continued to escalate in February, a game against Arizona that it seemed like Darryn Peterson was going to play in, and then he was a very late scratch due to an illness, which was not previously reported on the injury report. Then a few days later against Iowa State, he played probably his worst game of the entire season against a tough defense. The illness appeared to still be bothering him, and then he was sat for the last handful of minutes of that game in anticipation of just trying to get better prepared for these other games. He clearly just wasn't right in that one due to illness. And then a few days later, and most recently as of the recording of this video, Peterson has an unbelievable first half against Oklahoma City. He has 23 points in 18 minutes, and as I showed in the clip earlier, appeared to maybe sort of kind of ask out of the basketball game and not play for the over 17 minutes.
But the good thing about it though, he axes out when they're already winning. Like in that game, he already had 20 points and they were winning. So it's not like he's axing out like they're losing or it's a chance for the team to come back. They're actually blowing the team out and then he axes out. So that's the good thing about this Oklahoma game where he axed out. But they just gotta get down to the root of why he's cramping this much. And even when he makes it to the league, the medical staff in the league is better than medical staff in college, I feel like. So they're going to get down to the bottom of it and find out why he's cramping like this. But outside of the cramping, once again, he's the number 1 pick. It shows it how he plays. He's the number 1 pick for sure.
That were left in the game in the second half, again in a game that Kansas ends up winning anyway. And the quotes after the game from head coach Bill Self are arguably the most concerning part of all of this and the thing that has really escalated this. Prior to this game, Self largely talked about this as a legitimate issue, as a cramping issue, as an illness, and now he's kind of speaking on it as a surprise and as a disappointment that they weren't able to have him for the entire game. Now, when you put all this together, here's what I'm speculating. One, he had a legitimate injury in the beginning of the season. The hamstring strain was 100% real, and that possibly could have led to him being even more cautious about later injury issues. And two, it's very clear that this season at Kansas for Darryn Peterson is more than anything about preserving his draft stock. He doesn't want to be out there, or people around him don't want him to be out there if he's not at 110%. If he's experiencing any kind of a cramp, any kind of an illness, any kind of issue at all that would make him appear to be less of a player than he actually is, they're going to take every single precaution that they can to have him not be out there. And generally speaking, that's not necessarily a new development in college basketball. There are plenty of players over the years that have prioritized their NBA prospects over their college prospects, but we appear to have crossed a line here where the coach basically has no control over what's happening with the best player on his team.
You know, we've seen it multiple times. We've seen people talk about it. These players that are coming in from high school, going to college, they're just going to college because they have to. If it was a choice for them to just go straight to the league, they would. AJ, he wouldn't be in college. Darryn Peterson, he wouldn't be in college. Cameron Boozer, he wouldn't be in college. I feel like the NBA, why not just let people come out of high school? The problem with that though is people that think they're ready and then they go in the league and they just start playing bad and they want to go to college afterwards. Like we seen it with Amari Bailey, who was in college, played in an NBA game, and now wants to go back to college. Like, so it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing to have people come straight out of high school. But these players, like what he was saying, their agents and stuff, they don't want them to have a hit on their draft stock. So they want them to check out games if they feel like they're cramping or feel like they're about to play bad. So that's just what it is. These players don't care about playing in college. They just want to make it to elite. That's it.
There are people, whether it be behind the bench or within his camp, that are basically saying, hey, these are the minutes you are or are not allowed to play him. And that's just the cost of doing business, was having someone this talented on your team. And to an extent, I can respect a guy in Darryn Peterson that is prioritizing his long-term basketball future. However, if the goal is to make sure that he preserves his draft stock, that's not what's happening. This clearly is going to be a red flag for NBA teams, whether it be because of possible injury concerns. If he's having this many issues cramping when he's not even really playing that many games in college and he's not finishing very many games in college, that's a real concern. If you're playing an 82 game schedule, that's best case scenario. That's definitely happening as a concern. Worst case scenario, teams are going to question your commitment to the team. They're going to question how much you actually like basketball. They're going to question what your actual motives are here. Do you want to be the best basketball player you can be, or do you want to make as much money as you possibly can? And I'm not judging you for that choice, but if we're talking about preserving your draft stock, what's happening right now with his college career is not necessarily doing that. And the craziest part of all of this is he's so good that none of this might matter. He, at times, to me, when he's healthy, when he's rolling, looks a lot like Anthony Edwards, but a little bit less athletic. He's a better shot creator and shot.
What did I say though? Bleach Report, all these news outlets, they're saying he's Ant. He plays like Ant. I've seen him play. I've watched a ton of his highlights in live games. He plays like Ant. They get to their spots the same. The flow, the way they flow in the game is the same. He's just less athletic, but when he make it to the league, he's going to be tough, especially if he doesn't have that cramping problem in the league. He goes to a team where he has the ball in his hands and he could take over and score. He's going to be a problem for sure. Darryn Peterson he's the number 1 overall pick. No matter with this cramping stuff or what, he's proved himself to be able to flow in a game. Prove himself to outbeat the dude that he's competing with, which is AJ DeBonset. He's proved that in the BYU game. He showed that.
Maker than Ant was out of college, but Ant obviously was a better athlete. But that's kind of what he reminds me of as an NBA player. Ant maybe is a little bit more of an off-ball player than he has now become at the NBA level. True. And that is someone that is certainly worthy of going number 1 overall in a draft class, even as talented as this one appears to be. But if we get to a scenario here where Darryn Peterson consistently does not finish games, and consistently, as we get towards March Madness, does not really appear to care that much about the overall team success of the Kansas program, that is going to be a gigantic red flag. And no matter what happens here, either we're going to be dealing with injury concerns, or we're going to be dealing with cares about basketball concerns, or maybe more concerningly, you're going to be dealing with an issue of, do you trust the people around this guy? Is this going to be a problem where the people around him are guiding him in a direction that he should not be going? All of which sounds very dramatic, but that's the point that we have gotten to in this situation. It's a very dramatic situation. It's a very strange and a very odd situation that the potential number 1 overall pick in the draft just doesn't really seem to play that much.
Yeah. W Sports logically, the W post. I agree with him. 100%. It might be an issue. It might be a real issue, or it might not. You know, he might be protecting his draft stock, even though it does make the draft stock go low. But who knows how he plays when he is cramping. So but he's tough though. We've seen it against AJ. We've seen it against Houston when they just beat Houston. As I'm recording this, they beat them a couple days ago or a day ago. So he's tough. I like him. He's my personal favorite to go #1. Atlanta Hawks, please, 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 please get the #1 overall pick so we could get this dude Darryn Peterson and have the point guard or shooting guard of our future. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments. We are 1 subscriber away from hitting 100 subscribers. You feel what I'm saying? 100% of y'all don't make it to the end of this video, but if y'all did, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications. I'm gonna see y'all in the next video. Yeah.